Once upon a time, a very curious and wonderful thing happened in the neighborhood of Woodland. But then, curious and wonderful things always seem to be happening there. It all began, as you might expect, in Rabbit's house. But it began on, of all days, a Wednesday, which was very odd indeed, because as everyone knows, nothing very exciting or wonderful ever happens on Wednesdays. And this Wednesday didn't seem to begin any differently. Rabbit was up early, as usual. He'd made his bed, washed his face and paws, and had an extra big breakfast of pancakes and blueberries, which, by the way, is Rabbit's favorite usual breakfast. He'd washed his dishes, brushed both his teeth twice, and had already finished making Wednesday notes on his daily list of things to do, as usual. But there was one thing that made this Wednesday very different indeed. As a matter of fact, quite special. Today was Fox's birthday, and not only was Rabbit excited, but he felt wonderful to boot. You see, Fox's present had just arrived. It was a beautiful new rocking chair, specially made by the Beaver-built Woodworking Company on the other side of the big pond, and personally delivered by Mr. and Mrs. J. Beaver themselves. "I hope you enjoy it," Mrs. Beaver had said. "There's only one more like it, you know." Rabbit knew it was special. The rockers were forest green, the armrests were sky blue, and the back and top were made of real redwood. But best of all, it had a fluffy white cushion for the seat, with yellow daisies and blue snapdragons embroidered on it. "It's grand," thought Rabbit. "I can't wait to see the expression on Fox's face at the party tonight." Suddenly, Rabbit clapped his paws together. "Oh, dear, and how do you do?" he said, looking at his watch. "The party! I nearly forgot." Rabbit, you see, was making all the arrangements for an extra special surprise party for Fox that evening. He looked at his list of things to do. It was very long. "Why, I've got places to go, things to do, balloons to blow, and ribbons to hang. I'd better hurry." And hurry he did, quickly disappearing with a hop in his step down the lane and into town. Now, as I said, Rabbit's list of things to do was very long, and he'd thought of nearly everything. But in his rush to get busy, he'd forgotten two very important things. First of all, he'd forgotten to hide Fox's present, as he had planned. But even more important, he'd forgotten Fox himself, who, at that very moment, just as Rabbit was disappearing down the lane, was strolling up the hill with a basket of fresh blueberry muffins for his usual Wednesday morning visit with Rabbit. But when he got there, there was a note on Rabbit's door. It said, "Gone to town, be back soon, Rabbit." Fox knocked anyway. There was no answer. Said Fox. "It would be a shame if Rabbit missed my blueberry muffins, wouldn't it?" "You're absolutely right," Fox answered himself. "Perhaps I'll just set them inside the door. They'll be a delicious surprise when he returns." So gently, he lifted the latch and opened Rabbit's door. Fox's eyes grew as big as saucers, and he nearly dropped the basket of muffins. There, right in the very middle of Rabbit's living room, was the most beautiful rocking chair Fox had ever seen. He looked longingly at the bright colors and fluffy cushion. Why, it was exactly like the one he'd seen in the window at the Beaver-built Woodworking Company. "Well, how do you like that?" said Fox aloud. "Rabbit has a new rocking chair, and a fine one at that. And he hasn't even invited me over to try it out." "Well, we'll just have to fix that. After all, we are the bestest of friends. I'm sure he wouldn't mind just one little rock back and forth." So Fox set the basket of muffins down, and then gently set himself down in the new rocker. It felt perfect. "Just one little rock," he said to himself again. But it was so comfortable, and it rocked so smoothly that Fox soon lost count. And before he knew it, he was rocking faster and faster until he rocked so fast the chair tipped right over backwards with a crash, breaking both of the beautiful forest green rockers. Slowly, Fox stood up. He couldn't bear to look. There on the floor was the new rocking chair, in pieces. "Oh, my goodness, I've really done it this time," he said aloud. "Rabbit will never forgive me. And of all the days for something so awful to happen, my birthday. I'm afraid to tell him. What am I going to do?" Now, you and I know that the right thing to do would have been to wait for Rabbit, tell him the truth, and everything would have been fine. But sometimes, when bad things happen by accident, doing the right thing doesn't always come so easily. As a matter of fact, sometimes we do just the opposite, the wrong thing. And unfortunately, that's just what Fox was about to do. He picked up the rocking chair, and with just a little tap here and a little tap there, he tried to push the rockers back onto the legs, to try and make it look as though the beautiful new chair hadn't been broken at all. "Perhaps it'll be all right," Fox said to himself. "Perhaps Rabbit won't rock very quickly." Then, making sure it was sitting just as he had found it, Fox gathered up his basket of muffins. After all, if he left them for Rabbit now, Rabbit would know Fox had been there, and everything would be spoiled. But deep inside, Fox knew he had made a terrible mistake, and he was very sad indeed as he walked home. Soon, Rabbit returned. He'd brought a large shopping basket with him, and it was filled with packages of every kind. He'd completed nearly everything on his list of things to do, including personally inviting Possum, Otter, and of course, Randall Mole. Rabbit looked at his watch. It was already past midday, and he had to be certain Fox would arrive at 5 o'clock sharp. He picked up his telephone and began dialing Fox's number. "Now for some fun," he laughed. Now, just as Rabbit was laughing to himself in his kitchen, Fox was in his den down under the hill, trying his hardest to get his courage up to tell Rabbit what had happened, when suddenly the telephone rang. It was Rabbit. "Hello, Fox," he said. Hello, Rabbit," said Fox, sounding very strange indeed. "Fox, I need your help moving some furniture. Would you please come to my house at 5 o'clock sharp?" "Furniture?" said Fox, feeling very uneasy. "Why, of course, I'd be very glad to help you." "Splendid," said Rabbit. "See you then." But Fox interrupted. Rabbit?" he asked. "Yes," said Rabbit. I hope you're having a pleasant Wednesday. Goodbye." And then he hung up. As hard as he had tried, Fox just couldn't seem to bring himself to tell his best friend the truth. "And that won't do at all," he said to himself. "You've just got to do the right thing." And then he had an idea. "That's it," he cried, and he dashed out the door as quick as a fox. Now, Rabbit hadn't been a bit surprised at Fox's odd behavior on the telephone. Poor fellow, he thought, thinking I'd actually ask him to move furniture on his birthday. And he laughed out loud and didn't give it another thought. Soon, Rabbit finished the decorations. The house was grand. There were balloons everywhere, of every size and shape, and ribbons, and party hats, and whistles, and, well, just about everything you can think of to make a perfect birthday party. Possum was the first guest to arrive. He brought a large bowl of strawberries and cream, and a walking stick he'd made for Fox. "The house is splendid, Rabbit," he said, unusually happy. Otter arrived next, with a big basket of sandwiches, and a sweater for Fox. "Perhaps we can have a moonlight swim after the party," he said. Finally, Randall Mole arrived, on his new bicycle, with a new pair of corduroy slippers and 2 homemade sweet potato pies. "I made these in my baking class," he said proudly. They all stood and admired the beautiful new rocking chair. "I like the design," said Possum. "I like the colors," said Otter, "especially the red wood." "I like everything about it," said Randall Mole. "Have you tried it out yet?" he asked Rabbit. "Why, no. As a matter of fact, I haven't," said Rabbit. I suppose it wouldn't hurt." "Of course not. Give it a try," said the others. "Oh, why not?" said Rabbit. And he gently eased himself down on the fluffy white cushion. Rabbit smiled and began to rock backwards, but suddenly his smile turned into a big "oh," and before you could say 1, 2, 3, there was a loud crash, and Rabbit was lying flat on his back right in the middle of the beautiful new rocking chair, in pieces underneath him. "Oh, no," he said. "I've broken it. I've broken Fox's beautiful new rocking chair. Whatever in the world am I going to do? It's nearly 5 o'clock, and Fox will be here any minute. What am I going to do?" Rabbit thought he was going to cry. Then, suddenly, he snapped his paws, and a gleam appeared in his eye. "I have it!" he shouted. "There is something I can do. The Beaver-Built Woodworking Company has another just like it in the window." And quickly, Rabbit picked up the telephone and dialed the number. Mrs. Beaver answered. "Hello, Beaver-Built Woodworking Company." Otter, Randall, and Possum watched Rabbit's smile slowly droop to a frown. "I'm sorry, Mr. Rabbit," she was saying, "but we just sold the very last one only minutes ago. As a matter of fact, Mr. Beaver is delivering it right now." Rabbit's heart sank. "Well," he said, after he'd hung up, "I'll just have to tell Fox the truth." Then, at that very moment, there was a knock at the front door. It was Fox. "Oh, my goodness," he said, as Rabbit opened the front door. "Happy birthday, Fox," said Possum and Otter and Randall Mole, trying their best to look happy. But neither Rabbit nor Fox, either one, was able to manage even a hint of a smile. As a matter of fact, if their frowns had been any longer, their whiskers would surely have been brushing their toes. Then, the most curious thing happened. Rabbit looked at Fox, and Fox looked at Rabbit, and at exactly the same time, they both said exactly the same thing to one another. "I have something terrible to tell you," they said. "I've broken your new rocking chair." And then they did it again. "What did you say?" they said together. Suddenly, they both began laughing. "You first," said Rabbit. And before long, Fox had explained everything. "I'm proud of you for telling me the truth," said Rabbit, smiling at his friend. "But you know, it's a shame Mr. and Mrs. Beaver have already sold the last rocker. If they hadn't, why, everything would be perfect." Suddenly, Fox jumped to his feet. "Oh, my goodness," he said loudly. "The other rocker! I almost forgot to tell you. It was me." "It was you what?" said Rabbit, as Fox opened the front door. But Fox didn't need to answer, because there, standing on the front porch, was Mr. J. Beaver himself, holding a beautiful brand new rocking chair. "Is this where you want it, Mr. Fox?" he asked. "You're absolutely right," said Fox, and at that, everyone burst out laughing. Later, after cake, ice cream, and of course, taking turns in the new rocker, Rabbit looked at Fox and smiled. "Here's to the bestest of friends," he said. Fox smiled back at his old friend. "Honestly," he said,